But let's start here first. Many municipalities in the country are on the verge of collapse. In fact, the Auditor General gave just 27 of the 257 municipalities a clean audit. Now, some of them have also been placed under administration. So let's take this discussion even further. What happens to these municipalities after the election with analyst Professor Tinashe Chigwata. Prof, thank you for your time and good morning to you. Welcome to the South African Morning. That's exactly the question. What then happens to these municipalities, of course, after election?
Good morning to Melo and Gareth, and good morning to your listeners. The issue of, I think, failing municipalities, I think it's one of the critical ones, given where we are as a country at the moment. And the upcoming local government elections, I think, raises another significant question, as you have already stated. What happened to these municipalities after the elections? In terms of the law, the constitution requires that all interventions must be terminated as soon as the new council is declared elected. So soon after the elections and all the new councils are in place, the law requires that all these interventions terminate. So this is a critical, I think, legal requirement, but it raises a lot of, practical and also other legal questions, and whether this is rational, because at the moment we have about more than 30 municipalities that are under administration, and some of the administration, I think, for example, recently the one in Lekwa kicked in just now in April. So we're talking of a few months into administration, and we're already having local government elections. So the question is whether what should happen after these elections. Should these interventions be extended? Should they be terminated? Should they be reviewed? I think that's a critical question that we need to raise at the present moment.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're raising it, because also bearing the brunt here are community members of society. What then happens to service delivery at this stage?
Of course, I think one of the issues that has been raised is whether the coming in of new councillors, of course, it promises that, a new breath of air is coming in, and there's a possibility that the new councillors could turn things around. But what we see in most of our municipalities that are dysfunctional or that are not working well is that there are systemic problems. So there are problems that an election is unlikely to fix. So there's a strong possibility that these challenges may proceed even after the election. And also one of the important, I think, factors that is also prevalent in South Africa at the moment is that having an election does not guarantee that you have new councillors. More often than not, the same councillors that are responsible for these problems come back into this council. So you are basically having an issue where, the old problems are transferred into the new councils. As a result, the problems that we see continue to continue on a daily basis, and obviously citizens on the ground will be affected in terms of their access to services.
So, Prof, just briefly before I let you go then, are you saying that some of the promises we've been hearing from our mayoral candidate, even live on the South African Morning, promising that they will make changes within municipality, whether it's lack of basic services like, lack of water or housing infrastructure, or even dealing with corruption, those promises may not be dealt with at the speed and the urgency with which they need, which is, it seems to be what they're promising, that will be their priority due to this 139 section?
Yeah, I think this is a stage for electioneering, and we're seeing a lot of promises coming across the political divide. So without getting in too much into whether they're going to fulfill these promises, there's a strong possibility that there's a possibility that some councillors will have, some councils will have new councillors who may bring in a new drive to change things for the better. There's also a possibility that some councillors may also change, those ones that underperformed the previously. If they get re-elected, they may also change and improve service delivery for the better. But at this point, I think what we are calling from our side is that the provinces, and where related the national government, they need to reassess all the interventions at the present moment, and ensure that some of the interventions that are necessary, they continue and get extended after the election, and the necessary oversight mechanisms that are required in terms of the constitution, the law, they are followed strictly.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there. And I appreciate you talking to us this morning, Professor Tinashe Chigwata from the Dullah Omar Institute at UWC.